70% of the United States adults do not have any plan in order whatsoever. Even further, with just within our community, it's upwards of 90% of folks don't have a plan.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or wherever you are in the world watching today's episode of the Live Better podcast. I am your host, Fee Gentry, and today I have an amazing guest on who is someone I've been wanting to interview for a long period of time. None other than Shema Freeman. And y'all, I'm just going to give her a little bit of tea about who she is and what she's done. I'm finding out stuff about her, and we've known each other. We were just talking about that just before we started recording. We were talking about like how long have we known each other. And we said, oh, since Puerto Rico. And so you guys should know these things about Shema Freeman. She hails from the great state of Florida. She is. We'll talk about that later on. She is the owner and principal owner of Urithi Law PLLC. She's a graduate of the George Washington University Law School. She has a PhD, and I believe it's in engineering, right? She is a licensed broker in the state of Florida, and I believe in the state of Texas. You're also a licensed, are you broker or agent in the state of Texas? Yeah. But we are really excited to have her. She's been an adjunct lecturer. She is one of what I would call when I go to and I need something about one of America's great thinkers on all things estate law. And so I am glad and blessed to have her on our advisory board for Handled Home Solutions. And so one of the things that we've been talking about for the last several months is about estate planning and seniors aging in place and what they need to do. So that's what this episode is going to be focused on. So I botched, your interview. I mean, your introduction, Shema. Tell me what's not on paper that you would like to share with today's audience.
There's probably a lot on there that people will want to know. I'm also a dog mom.
Oh,
Yeah, I got my little one is right here in her bed next to us, so she wanted to be a part of it. But my birthday was this week as well, and
that's right.
I'm such a big nerd that how I celebrate my birthday is I watch the History Channel all day. So yeah, that's my top secret is I still am absolutely in love with all things STEM, and whenever I get a break, that's what I'm doing. I'm building something or researching something in engineering or and whatnot. So I'm still a huge STEM nerd at heart.
Wow. Well, that's a lot people should know about. I love that. And so when we start off the show, one of the things that we always start off, like for the person who's watching this show, tell me by the time that they spend watching this show and why it's important for them to invest their time, but what should they come away with? Why should they sit and watch you and I talk? And what will they come away with at the end of this show?
Sure. And we talked about this, before we got on too, is that one, our seniors are our largest growing demographic in the world. And I think it's a missed opportunity for us to be able to sit with them and talk with them and learn with them. And one of the things that we talk about is by allowing those seniors to age in place, it also gives us the opportunity to transfer that knowledge. And we both agree that legacy is not just money, right? It's those family stories. It's the impact that you leave on people. And so hopefully this conversation will understand why we think it's so important to have that connection to our seniors and allow them to still be a part of the family and grow and age in place the way they want to.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So with that said, let's get into it, right? So we're going to just we're going to get into this, and some of this is going to be some technical pieces of it, and other parts are going to be the storytelling. So there's this personal part of it, because one of the things that people probably don't know about you is your own story as a caregiver of your own mom. So one of the things I would love for you to share is share with us about your journey with your mom, and then we'll kind of get into the technical pieces of things.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I honestly got into this business, right? What most people don't know is that my mom had a heart attack and a heart transplant my very first year in grad school. So way back when I was studying my PhD in 2001, that spring semester, she had a heart attack. And at that point, I was in Gainesville, Florida. She was in Jacksonville, Florida. And so those first few years of grad school, I spent going back and forth every day from Jacksonville to Gainesville for classes and to take care of her. And eventually, when she was healed enough to move, she actually moved to Gainesville to live with me. So all during grad school, my mom lived with me, and we were surviving off of a off of my little, teaching assistant salary, and that taught me a lot. And uh, eventually, she was well enough to live on her own, and I actually moved away to go to law school. So that left me in DC, and there was plenty of times during that 7-year process when we were separated that she had to be hospitalized, and I just couldn't, get back to Florida very easily. And so one of the reasons I'm so attracted to what you do is that it's a way for family members that aren't right there to be able to look in on their family members that are away and have some comfort and peace knowing that the house is still being taken care of and whatnot. After law school, I moved back to Florida and again resumed that caregiver role for my mom. And then towards the end there, I was doing everything. I was the chef. I was the the nurse, making sure she had her medications, and it's a tough role. And I learned very quickly that having people to come in and help, both on the technical side and just the emotional side, is a huge benefit for both the person you're taking care of and the caregiver itself. So it's how I got interested in estate planning. It's how I learned probate, honestly, dealing with her estate. And so I knew it was if it was going to be tough for me, who this person who has all these degrees and went to law school, then it became my mission to be able to help other folks not struggle so much in the process. So
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. People don't know that we're real people behind this. Like this is not just, this is not just business. This is lived experience that we're talking about. And we're talking about, and,
100%.
and so there are, like we said, there's 73 million baby boomers just in the US alone. We're not even talking about the other developing countries. 73 million baby boomers who will be, over the age of 70 by the year 2032. They outnumber us as Gen Xers, they outnumber millennials and then Gen Zs, which we find ourselves, like we said, taking care of our going to school, having career, taking care of
Yeah.
our kids, taking care of grandkids.
Yeah, I think most of us as Gen Xers are in that
Yeah,
mixed generation where
yeah,
I have friends that have toddlers and I have friends that have kids that are going to college and then they're also taking care of parents and
right.
so yeah,
And,
we're a very unique place in our lives right now.
yeah, and it's unsustainable doing it the way we're doing. There is, right now, people may not know this, but right now, today, I was just looking at a study that was done on National Institute of Aging that 129 million work days collectively were missed last year, and it's costing us $50 billion year to date. I mean, annually. I'm sorry, not year to date. $50 billion a year annually is costing us in terms of us as caregivers or families that are having to take care of their not having to that get to take care of
Right.
their parents and or loved ones because I have uncle aunts and
Yeah.
two adult aging parents. So those are the things that are there. And then we can talk about the numbers. The $15.7 trillion wealth transfer that is getting that's getting eaten up or that's disappearing because of the lack of support. So those dollars are
Yeah.
falling through. And so the legal parts of it that we want to talk about, man, you've shared some things with me in the past that I was like, what? Like that are blowing my mind. So let's go back and talk about the yes, we want to make sure people age in place, but we want to age in place, like we said, with support and a system. So we're going to talk about the legal side of it. Um,
Sure.
the first question I have for you is, could you explain specifically what you do because there's something that's called estate planning, right?
Hmm.
That's somebody that's post death, or is that always
Estate planning is pre-death.
pre-death? Okay.
So yeah, I think most people understand what a will is, right? That's a document that basically you get to tell whoever is taking care of your estate when you pass who you want things to go to, maybe your funeral or arrangements and things like that. But that's still a court process, right? So the court oversees that whole distribution. The next level I think most people know about is a trust, right? And that's primarily used to avoid probate, but there's some nuance to that. Obviously hire an attorney to help you through that process. So those are kind of like the basics of the two ways that you can transfer things. And then also a part of your estate plan is having a power of attorney in place. So someone that can both make your medical decisions for you when you can't, and also your financial decisions for you. as well. And then kind of the fourth document or technical piece that we talk about is a living will, and that will tell people how you want to be treated if you are hospitalized. So whether or not you want to be on a long-term respirator, whether or not you want to go to an assisted living facility, and things like that. So those are kind of the four primary pieces: a will, a trust, your power of attorney, and your living will.
Shema, how many people have these in place? Because
I still get baffled by this statistic, but it's out there that 70% of the United States, like adults, do not have any plan in order whatsoever. And when you look even further with just within our community, it's upwards of 90% of folks don't have a plan. And I say that like it's heartbreaking, right? But what people need to know is that if you don't create your own plan, the state that you live in already has a plan that's in statute that is what will be followed if you don't have something alternative to that.
so talk about the consequences of that. Like what happens to homes, wealth, like we talked about. This is a financial play. Yes, it's painstaking, but
Yeah,
it's a financial play. Talk to us like what happens in the court systems. Kind of walk us through if those things aren't in place for seniors who are aging in place or adult children to
sure. And so this is, I mean, I have many different stories, but I'll give you an example of something that I'm dealing with right now. It's one of my Florida cases. And what happened was my client is the daughter of the deceased. His family isn't terribly close, unfortunately. And so, you know, the daughter had two siblings that had also passed, but those siblings all have kids. And so, since the decedent didn't have a will, we followed the Florida intestacy laws, which means each of those now grandchildren that aren't close to grandma also have some rights to the estate. And unfortunately, we can't find all of the grandchildren and the heirs to this estate. So part of that is it's expensive because I have to hire out an investigator to go find this person. So you have the expense of that, and then the time. Like I've been on this case for I think 3 years. That we've been. It was one of my very first probate cases that I ever took on, and the unfortunate part of that is that my client, who is the daughter again, has been paying all the utilities of that house to maintain it. She's been paying the taxes to maintain it. And unfortunately, she can never be made 100% whole in this situation because even if we do find all the heirs and the court will name those heirs, I mean, there's in order for her to be paid back, she'd have to then negotiate that payment with the other heirs to be paid back. And so it's just one of those things of it's an unfortunate situation. If mom had had a will and said, "Hey, I want to give this home to this one daughter," this would have been a cut and dry case, right? And now we're chasing people down, and like I said, it's 3 years. Like, and we can't. She can't do anything else with the house until we get this settled. So, can you imagine having to pay for a house for 3 years when all you want to do is sell it to begin with?
yeah.
Like,
Wow.
it's. I mean, and that's just one case.
Yeah.
I think my primary case that comes to me is dealing with taxes, where a family will inherit a house. Nobody really wants to live in the house, but so they don't pay the taxes, and then 5-10 years later they realize, oh wait, we could have just sold it, but now they're facing a tax foreclosure, and we have to probate. And again, it's finding all of the heirs, and you know some of these people, some of these families have 20 different heirs that you're trying to track down. So I think it's really important for families to figure out what they want to do early on, so we don't have this kind of troubles.
Right. I have a question about that. Um, Most people, when they hear the word estate, they think they need to have a lot of money or have a lot of assets. Who should be having an estate plan and an asset plan, and what's the level of, uh, like I said, what's the level of assets or dollar amount, or
Yeah,
that people should actually consider this?
I think that is a misconception. I'm of the belief that anyone 18 and older needs to have some sort of plan. Because when you think about it too, like estate planning is not just death, it's also incapacity. And so you want somebody that is able to make decisions for you if you get hospitalized. Say you're in a car accident. and you just need someone to be able to act for you in that case, even in the short term. That's also a part of estate planning. But I think most parents don't know is that when your child turns 18, you are no longer like the automatic,
That's right.
you no longer have automatic access to their accounts or even calling their registrar at college, right? The college will turn you away and say, I'm sorry, you have to go talk to your son and daughter. So that's the incapacity part, right? Like the immediate part of it. But you don't even need, that big of a estate. Think about a college kid. They don't really have anything other than personal items. But I still think it's important to have that conversation of to be open with your family and say, hey, if something were to happen to me, this is what I want done, right? So I don't. There is no dollar amount associated with. It's just again, like we said, like it's the impact that you leave on people, and so it's a part of like understanding how to be in a family and how to operate a family afterwards after you're gone. So everybody should have a plan.
Everybody should have a plan.
Everybody should have a plan. But practically, I will give you some practical things. If you are a parent, you have a minor child, have a plan. If you own any sort of real estate, have a plan. If you have a small business, have a plan. Those are like the three main categories of people that I work with, right? Um, and then for our interest in senior care, the way you avoid, say, a guardianship is to have a plan.
Yeah, yeah. And
Um,
talk to people about a guardianship. I was surprised when you were going through that list of things on a guardianship. Like you said, judges do not want guardianships. Attorneys don't want to do it. Like,
no,
what,
no, nobody really wants to
what
do
would
it these
happen with a guardianship? Like, what happens in the senior families? You told me about this story about like follow the money kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is.
Uh,
Is a lot of times when you have a guardianship, it's because there's somebody in the family that's fighting over who's going to control mom or dad's money, and that is, I mean, besides the emotional and attack on the family, it's not really good for the care of that senior that you're talking about either, right? Because they don't want to see their family fighting, and you don't want to be fighting. They just want to be taken care of. And so, yeah, a lot of what you do at Handle Home Service is how we avoid a guardianship.
right.
Is you have that support in place. You have someone that's making sure mom and dad are eating and taking their medications, and that their bank accounts are taken care of. So, yeah, guardianships are not fun for anybody, and mostly because it's usually pitting family members against each other when all you know the ward, what we call them, the person being taken care of, wants to do is just be with their family in those final days and be able to have everybody get along. So
Wow. Yeah. That's good stuff. Oh, I mean, we've covered, I mean, we're already over halfway through with this interview because it's not going to be a long interview, right? Um, I wanted to go into some other parts of aging in place, things that we should think about with seniors.
hmm
And I don't know if this is your area or not. Um, Things that we can do to legally protect the structure of the home itself.
yeah,
Um, Title deed transfers. How do we have seniors keep from getting their homes stolen, title from underneath them by a
so
family who are not, like, some of those things that we want to talk about.
yeah,
Yeah.
so some of this is going to be state specific, but I
Okay.
think at most states right now, in most counties, they will actually be able to monitor when a new deed or when something is registered with the court. So I would definitely put that in place. I know Florida and both Florida and Texas have a way for you to monitor when filings are put on your house. So that's number one. Um, as far as transfer, there are a number of ways to do that. Whether or not you want to do a ladybird deed, which is basically it still gives the owner, a life estate in that house, and then it automatically transfers to whoever's on the deed when they're passing, and there's no probate or court process involved in that. Obviously, having a trust is also another good way to do that, and that can incorporate all of your assets, right? Your cars, your insurance, all those are there's even ways to deal with like 401ks and stocks and all those things, different things in that as well. But yeah, I think the number one thing is if you have a property, um, then at least have that part of the estate figured out. Like either do uh, um, a transfer on death deed or a ladybird deed, or put it in your will who you want it to go to. Because even if it goes through probate, at least the court has a direction to move in.
Yeah, and that's what it is. I think what it is so it sounds like the most important thing I'm hearing is documentation, sys
Documentation.
systems, and processes, right? Just
100%.
yeah.
And I think too, I had the situation yesterday where a lot of what I do, or a lot of what estate planners do, is technical. And so we tend to forget sometimes that there are still people that we're dealing with. And so um, that's the easiest way to not be caught up in the emotion in that moment, is to have these things in place beforehand,
Right.
right? Take care of the technical so you don't have the stress of that when you're grieving as well.
Absolutely. Man, I love this. Um, we're gonna, like, close up here because 'cause we're not gonna stay here long. Let's delve into just some final words or thoughts about you've done such a great job, but just anything else that you'd advise for people when we're talking about aging in place, that we may not have covered, or things to think about that are
Yeah,
preventative? Because we, like, at Handle Home Solutions, we deal with, we handle the home and we handle the human.
hmm
And so the things that we look at, that we focus on preventative maintenance, prevention, fall prevention,
yeah,
safety, making sure that the family has vetted and coordinated services. So how can what other layers of protection, because we do that layer of protection for the home
sure.
and the humans, what else should anybody else think about?
Something that I've really been promoting lately, well, two things. On the technical side, have a family meeting, an annual family meeting, where you talk about all the assets, who they're going to. It's one of those things where I wish that we as Americans were far more transparent about money and about this topic than we are, because it would save, and I hate to bring it down to time and money, but it saves so much time and money at the end,
Mhm.
honestly. It's like you can pay an attorney $4,000, $5,000 to create that estate plan for you, or you can pay them $10 to $15,000 on the back end to
Mhm.
handle it afterwards, right? Um, and then on the emotional side, one thing I personally miss most about my mom is hearing her voice, right? I have lots of people, lots of pictures and things like that. Um, but I've recently, been looking into ways to incorporate that into part of my aftercare program. Is take videos of your loved ones, have audio recordings of them. It's the little things that are eventually going to knock you off your socks on that one random day. You're going to hear a song, or you're going to see something that's going to remind you of them, and you're going to want to be able to hug them and hear the voice. So get into a little bit of arts and crafts. So I've seen on Facebook and TikTok where people will have grandma and grandpa like get a paint and hug the shirt, and that
Yeah.
then you're always hugging them. And so those are the things I think that we don't always that we have to look at outside of the technical stuff, right? Because the technical stuff, your attorney can handle that for you.
Right.
Um, but get into the emotional side of it, and just remember that that's still, you know there's still a sharp person underneath all of that.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
know my grandparents were sassy as ever right up until the end.
Ooh,
So really
I
soak
know.
that in.
Yeah. Well, we have a whole generation. This generation, and guess what? We're not. I mean, we're
Hey,
not too far away. I'm Gen
we're
Xer.
not that far off.
Like, we're not too far off. I mean, we're gonna be that next generation, and so those are also like the learning lessons that we talk about, putting these things in place ahead of time so that we are responsive and not reactionary, is what
Mhm.
we end up sending, like you said, and spending. Like, we're talking about time and money. We're spending a lot of unnecessary time and money that we could be focused on spending, creating experiences with our loved ones. Right? That's what I say. Not having to worry about taking care of the home and being uh, the caregiver and the handyman and the
Yeah,
and
and
the
I don't
coordinator.
think people understand really the stress that puts on the family having to be all the things,
Mhm.
right? It like you said, it takes time away from work. It takes time away from your other responsibilities if you have kids in the house. And so just having that peace of mind and having the support around you is hugely important. And taking care of your own mind, body, and spirit as the caregiver is also
Huge, huge.
hugely important.
That's a whole nother show about caregiver burnout, right? Like, that's a whole other show. Actually, we're gonna have somebody on talking about caregiver burnout. I was actually gonna, and
Yeah,
I'm actually gonna be giving a speech about that in the next couple of weeks, about the cost of caregiver burnout and what
100%. Yeah.
impacts that it has on people. So Well, I mean, it's just been amazing. What I always do at the end of the show is I always have like this little last minute thing. You have 30 seconds. You could talk about anything. You could talk about teddy bears, or you could talk about your Florida Gators.
That's right. Go Gators. That's what I'm going to talk about.
So what do
Now,
yeah.
I love what you're doing, and I love this connection. And I feel like my mission since my mom has passed is to be able to spread this knowledge, and also the understanding that legacy doesn't have to be money, right? It's ultimately, like you always say, it's the impact that you leave with people and in people, and who they become. So who you are is your legacy, and what you give other people is your legacy. And
Absolutely.
this is just the type of things that make sure the stuff goes where you want it to go.
That's right. Because it's all just stuff, right? We ain't nobody
It's
getting out
all
here
just stuff.
live. Ain't nobody getting out here live, and nobody's getting out here with their stuff.
Mm.
Absolutely. So we may as well make the best of it. So how do people get in contact with you, Shema, if they wanted to, specifically in the states of like Texas and Florida, or and we're gonna have you back on for like series. We might do some series and just like ask,
I would love to come back.
pick the brain of.
Sure. The easiest way is my website. It's www.Urithi Law. That's URITHI law.com.
Here on your side of the screen. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Or if you want to call the office directly, I live and die by that phone. So I still have my Florida number, even though I'm practicing in Florida and Texas. So that my direct office line is 352-519-0001. So either one.
All right, y'all. That concludes this week's episode of Live Better podcast. We are so glad that you joined us. If you find that this information is helpful, or you enjoyed this type of content and you want to hear more about it, please make sure you put in the comments, and we might consider that doing that show as a topic. And as always, live better.
I love that.